السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعين به ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلا تجد له وليا مرشدا. أما بعد, جزاكم الله خير, my dear respected brothers and sisters. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless our gathering, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make this gathering beneficial, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept from all of us. Brothers and sisters, as we go through the journey with the book The Jiz and the Cure, for the past few weeks we were talking about the steps toward committing a sin. And to summarize what we have done already, we said that Ibn al-Qayyim, he said there are 4 steps into committing a sin. He said the very first one is lahadat, by looking, okay? And then after that he said khatarat, ideas that start with your head. And then he said lafadat, words that comes out of your mouth. And then the last step he said is khatawat, and this is what we're going to be discussing today, along with the effects of zina. So again, in summary, just to kind of summarize everything that we have said before, he said that the sin started by looking. You start looking at things, whether it was anything that is inappropriate, or a man looking at a woman, or a woman looking at a man, looking at sins of others, looking at people committing sins, and etc. And then after that, people develop an idea or a thought, and this thought can become an idea, and this idea will become a will or an intention, and then eventually would evolve into an actual action. So the next step is what? Thoughts that goes through your brain. The third step is that what we said lafadat, is that people start talking about or saying things, or using their tongues to commit certain acts of sin. And the last step is what we're talking about, is what we call as khatawat, is that people start walking towards the sin. And this is the last step on which people actually start do the effort to go about to commit the actual sin. And subhanallah, brothers and sisters, sometimes sitting and in the chair rather than walking to the sin is better. Subhanallah, when it comes to the acts of doing good deeds, running toward the good deeds is better than sitting. But when it comes to committing the sin, sitting is better than walking to it. And subhanallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he described his righteous servants, he mentioned that they walk toward what is good. They take the steps into what is decent. And he said, وَعِبَادُ الرَّحْمَنِ, the servants of the most merciful, يَمْشُونَ عَلَى الْأَرْضِ هَوْنًا, they would walk into this earth, with gentleness, and that shows what? That shows that the fact that they are subhanallah, that they're walking, they're making the effort, they're gentle even in the way they walk. Why? Because this is the way that they view this life. They want to do anything in this life that is going to take them closer toward Rabbil Alameen. So with that being said, brothers and sisters, we have to make sure that we take in consideration that these 4 steps that Ibn al-Qayyim have talked about, and see how we could reflect on those 4 steps, in which that don't take a sin lightly, because everything started with looking, and looking goes further into an idea. An idea can sometimes develop into you talking about it, or you walking toward it, and etc. But brothers and sisters, Ibn al-Qayyim, the next thing that he talks about is that how these 4 sins, these 4 steps I meant, a lot of times is being used in a way of committing sins that are obscene, fawahish, or when someone wanted to commit an adultery, and that's why Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what he said, أكثر ما يدخل الناس النار الفم والفرج, and the most things that would get people into entering the hellfire are 2 things: through their mouth and through their private parts. And subhanallah, in this hadith, it have combined the last 2 steps, in which that talking and through your private parts. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, brothers and sisters, have made killing as a punishment in the most severe forms, on the most awful sins. And Prophet Muhammad said, لا يحل امرأة مسلم إلا بإحدى ثلاثة, that the blood of a Muslim is not allowed. You're not allowed to kill anyone except for what? For, he said, one of three options. What is it? الثيب الزاني, the married person when they commit zina. That's the very first one. والنفس بالنفس, those who kill others, as a punishment. That's, that a capital punishment is done to them. وَالتَّارِكُ لِدِينِهِ الْمُفَارِقُ لِلْجَمَاعَةِ, the one who leaves his religion and he leaves the jama'ah. So notice, brothers and sisters, again, sometimes people like look at Islam as being a tough religion. And subhanallah, the act of punishment when it comes to sin, that's nothing new. Islam did not bring this as a new thing. And there was something that is mentioned in the biblical scriptures as much as is being mentioned in Islam. And it's very common for anyone who opened the Old Testament, you will see that the act of stoning, and the same thing applies to Islam. But in Islam is applied only those individuals who are married. And listen, that's an eye for an eye, and this is something common in many Western countries when it comes to the fact that if someone kills, there is a lot of states, even in the United States, there is a capital punishment for someone who is a very bad criminal, and because he killed others and etc. Okay, so there's nothing new per se, and this is something that is, I would say, uh, uh, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mandated it to deter others from committing these awful acts. And notice, brothers and sisters, in this hadith, what is the very first sin that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned is what? Is zina, is adultery. And then, as if adultery is the same thing as what? Or close to killing. Why? Because it involves a lot of consequences. A lot of reputation is involve honor, involve destroying families, involve people fighting and etc. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have forbade such thing, because whether when a woman or a man commits zina, what's going to be the consequences of that? It's going to be a lot of things. A woman and a man will bring dishonor to his family and her family and her relatives, and people would look at them in a dishonorable way. They say like his daughter or his guy's son, he is the one who have done such thing. And God forbid if she became pregnant from this this relationship. This is even worse. And subhanallah, look at this nowadays. People now commit zina, and on top of that, they kill their own children, waliyadu billah, by committing abortions and etc. So this is even a higher act. You committed zina, and on top of that, you are also killing an innocent soul. And the same thing, because the same thing when this applies whether a man or a woman, in which that there are, look, the amount of dishonor that they bring, the amount of fighting that it brings, the amount of reputation that the person is going to inherit in himself and his family and his surrounding relatives. But subhanallah, this is something that is we have to think about. And subhanallah, one of the consequences, as Ibn al-Qayyim has talked about, the consequences of zina is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that would inflict the individual who commits such thing is with poverty. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect all of us, and with short life. Subhanallah, there are so many saying that talks about the effect of zina when it comes to these things. As one of the scholars has said, بشر الزاني بالفقر ولو بعد حين, that give glad tidings to the adulterer with poverty, and even soon it would inflict you, and again you would have short life, and then the person who commits such thing, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would take away the light of his face. His face will become dark in the sight of the people, and then people would dislike him for no reason, and it makes his heart sick, spiritually sick, and this is if he did not lead to the point of death, the death of the spiritual heart. SubhanAllah, these things have have consequences in the world physically, and have consequences in the spiritual heart, and have the consequences is in between you, and the relationship between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, brothers and sisters, because of all these bad consequences, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have forbade this act, and have tried to deter people with this from this act by warning them. وَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا خُطُوَاتِ الشَّيْطَانِ. Allah, do not follow this. Don't follow the footsteps of shaitan. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَسَاءَ سَبِيلًا. That a worst way to go about is to go approach zina. For subhanallah, that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is jealous. And the justice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by moving away from these acts, these kinds of sins. And one time a man came to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He told, "O Prophet of Allah, and if I saw my wife committing zina, I would get rid of her." So Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Ata'jabuna min ghirati Sa'd? Are you amazed of how Sa'd is jealous from his wife?" But he said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is even more jealous. And I am jealous too, because we need to be jealous from what? From seeing people committing zina, or seeing people committing these kind of sins. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, "Inna Allah yaghar." Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is jealous from what? That from how could people do such thing? وَإِنَّ الْمُؤْمِنَ يَغَارُ. The true believer is jealous. Like he'll say, how come these people? Jealousy in the sense that he does not, he dislikes these things to be happen. How come? Jealous over the reputation of the Muslim, jealous over the reputation of Islam. That how could you do such thing? So subhanallah. One time Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he gave a lecture. He said, "Ya Ummah Muhammad, wallahi innahu la ahadun aghyaru min Allah an yazni abdun aw tazni amata." That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is so jealous to see a man committing zina, or a woman committing zina. Subhanallah, this is, and again, we one of the signs of an hour. One of the signs of an hour is what? That zina, adultery, will become widespread among the people. One of the signs of zina, one of the signs of the hereafter, that you will see people, listening to music, and you will see ignorance is wide open, and you will see abundance in women, to the point that you will see one man, and in front of him 50 women in population. So there's going to be scarcity in the amount of men. So there's going to be so much women, and there's going to be very few men. And that's one of the signs of our. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala please him with what he said, "Ma ظهر الربا والزنا في قرية إلا أذن الله بإهلاكها." That there is no city that have done adultery out in the open, and they have done interest out in the open, unless Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered them to be punished. So that's why, brothers and sisters, it's important for us to think about. The zina, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have made stoning such a severe punishment. Why? Because one, it's as a way to deter people. As Ibn Qayyim, he said Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have made such a harsh punishment. Why? For three reasons. One, to deter people, because it's killing is nothing recommended in Islam. No one likes it, but it's a deterrent. And second is that so people would dislike it. And subhanallah, even though people sometimes feel mercy over a lover with somebody loves a woman loves a guy. No, the point is for us to feel jealous over the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and not act based on our feelings, based on what is. Look at further the consequences of these actions on the society, and what detrimental effect it would have in a society. And all of this, subhanallah, when people feel, oh, how come you guys doing this? Because this is nothing but a sign of weak faith, And subhanallah, brothers and sisters, understand that in Islam, even though this is considered to be a bad, a horrible sin, but the door of forgiveness is open, as long as someone is willing, And so as long as someone is serious, as long as someone struggle to seek tawbah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, قل يا عبادي الذين أسرفوا على أنفسهم لا تقنطوا من رحمة الله إن الله يغفر الذنوب جميعا. Or you who believe, and those who have committed so many sins, do not يعني give up from the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would forgive all sins. So meaning that yes, it's a horrible sin, but yes, you're able to seek forgiveness from it. But it takes a lot of struggle. It takes a lot of struggle and a lot of work. And if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees you, a person who's struggling, working hard, trying to do what is right, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would forgive you. But somebody who's letting go, who does not change, who care less, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala might punish him in the dunya before the hereafter. And one of the things that brothers and sisters we need to make sure that we are afraid of, and that's one of the consequences of zina, is a bad ending, or what we call in Islam su al khatima. Remember this word, su al khatima, bad ending, meaning what? That upon the time you die on bad terms. Meaning what? And you die committing a sin, or you die not saying La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, and you die while Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would not accept you. And subhanallah, one of the Imam, his name Abdul Rahman al-Ishbili, he said one of the signs, one of the things that would lead to someone having a bad ending is the fact that he is so indulged into this dunya, and he let go of the hereafter, and he is so so proud of him committing sins, and he does not hide his sins. And of course, it depends on the kind of sin that he's doing. That the worst, the more likely he was going to die with bad ending. And subhanallah, how many times people have witnessed people dying and doing bad things and dying with bad endings. Subhanallah, it was narrated that one person, upon his deathbed, people told him, say La ilaha illallah, say La ilaha illallah, because we know if someone last words were La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, he would enter Jannah. And people tell him, say La ilaha illallah, he would say, I love so and so. Subhanallah. Even though he's able to talk, but he could not say it. He could not say it. And another person, people tell him, say La ilaha illallah. He said, I'm worried about my garden. I'm worried about my belongings. I am worried about this. Subhanallah. He's able to talk, but he cannot. The words La ilaha illallah will be so heavy onto his tongue. Another man, people told him, say La ilaha illallah in his bed. Say La ilaha illallah. He would say, I'm going to this place where I have met this woman. Subhanallah. In his last words of his, this is what he's saying. Subhanallah, brothers and sisters, we have to fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and make sure, and that we are fearful that we would not die on a bad ending. And so one time, subhanallah, Sufyan al-Thawri, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be pleased with him, one time he woke up crying. People told him, oh, you're crying all of this because you are fearing of committing sins. He said, no. الذنوب أهون من هذا. I'm not, I care about not committing the sins, but this is too light for me. ولكن أبكي من خوف الخاتمة. I am crying because I'm afraid that I might die on a bad ending, because that's going to be representative of how of this dunya. Because if you're doing good, brothers and sisters, throughout your life, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would make sure that you die on a good ending. Subhanallah, you would die doing a good deed. You would die reciting the Quran. You will die while you're reading the Quran. You will die while making dhikr. You will die while you are praying. You will die saying La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. You will die as a shaheed. But versus someone dying while he is walking to a bar, or dying going to see a bad movie, or his died while he's walking with a girl or talking to a girl, or he's dying flirting with a girl, or he's dying listening to music. وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. So, brothers and sisters, let's fear the fact that you can have bad ending, brothers and sisters. And I'm going to end with this story to show you how that you never feel safe from this, brothers and sisters. One time, this happened in old times in Egypt, where a man, he used to be a mu'adhin. He used to climb the minbar, like the masjid, the higher level of the masjid to make adhan. And he was known for his righteousness and for the fact that he worshiped Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So one time he climbed up to make an adhan. And after the adhan, because he was high in a high place, he was overlooking all of the neighborhood surrounding him. So what he saw a woman. He dressed inappropriately. So he kept looking at her, and he was so overwhelmed with her. He was so يعني, attached to her that he came down from the masjid and he went to her house and he knocked into his house and he told her, "I want you." He said, يعني, I want to marry you." He said, "You can't." He said, "Why?" He said, "You are a Muslim." He said, she said, "So what does it take for me to marry you?" He said, I am, I'm a Christian, or I belong to another religion, and you have to follow my religion in order for you to marry me. So what this man did, he left Islam. He left Islam for her sake. He left for Islam for his sake, and he followed another religion, and then what happened? Um, and and on the next few days, while walking to her house, he fell and he broke his neck and he died. So he did not marry her, nor he died in the state of Islam. Subhanallah, brothers and sisters, don't think again that kind of talks about everything that we mentioned, in which that how things start out by looking, idea, walking, and he pretty much represented everything that we talked about with this one story. So brothers and sisters, now understand that this is one of the detrimental effects of zina and what leads to it. I hope this is you got the idea. I hope Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would guide all of us. جزاكم الله خير لاستماعكم. سبحانك وبحمدك نستغفرك ونتوب اليك. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين يعملون الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. جزاكم الله خير والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.